True Stories presents 5 chilling tales. Fear, mystery, and suspense. 5 true stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Have you ever wondered how an ordinary day can suddenly turn into a nightmare? These stories introduce you to people who live under the shadow of danger, where truth hides behind a veil, and where every decision can mean life or death. Get ready, because it's time to witness 5 unbelievable stories. Story 1. Turbulence. A flight to nowhere. Fiction, suspense. Thriller. People are shuffling down the aisle of the plane, scooting one step at a time, shoving things in the overhead compartment, elbowing and kneeing each other as they throw themselves down into their seats. The flight attendants are smiling brightly and saying, "Good morning, good morning, good morning," to each passenger in turn as they enter the plane. The captain is there with them. I take a good look at him. I know this guy. Kind of a wimp. That's why I knew this was the right flight. I think his name is Cameron. When I press the barrel of this gun against his head, he'll do anything I say. One man with a gun can do anything. I give him a little wink. I'll see you soon. It's easy to get around airport security when you work at an airport. This is going to be my final flight. And the final flight for all these people too. I'm not going to shoot them all. Maybe just a few. Might as well, but most of them are going out with a real bang. Not me though. Gonna shoot myself right before we crash. My seat is 32F, so here we go. Almost there, and I stop. I see it, but I can't. There's, what? No. Yes. There's a goddamn grizzly bear sitting in a seat, buckled in. A woman sitting next to him is feeding him pink bits of something from a bowl. The bear is huge, but somehow fits in the seat like it was custom made. It's sitting straight up in the seat, buckled in. How? What? The woman caught me staring. Ooh, sorry. He doesn't like to be stared at. The bear is staring at me with deep brown eyes, dark brown fur, huge paws, long claws. It starts snorting and moaning, and I shake my head and keep walking to my seat. I look around and everyone else seems to be fine with this. How did I not see the bear walk onto the plane? Why is no one else freaking out about this? I find 32F and I look back to the bear, who's a few rows ahead. The bear turns its head and looks back at me. I turn my head away and drop down into my seat. The bear turned around and the woman next to it gave it another morsel. A man sits down next to me and says, "Hello there. Do you see that?" I said. "Oh yeah, we've got a full plane today. That's good luck, you know." "No, not that. I point. "What?" "The bear," I said so loud that a few people turned around and looked at me. "Oh yeah, he's a cute guy, isn't he?" "That's insane," I tried whispering, but I know everyone heard me. Shouldn't be a problem. The guy sits down and starts looking at his phone. Just like that, I look around and see others doing the same. I see people reading books, eating snacks, whatever. Nobody is freaking out over the goddamn grizzly bear sitting in 25B. "Sir, I'll need to place your bag in the overhead compartment," says a flight attendant. "No, this is my carry-on. My gun is in here." "Sorry, sir, but new safety procedures say we need all bags placed in the overhead bin for takeoff. Once we reach cruising altitude, you can get your bag." She reaches over to take my bag from my lap, but I hold on to it. "Sir, please," she says with a firm pull. I pull back. She's not letting go. We're having a small tug of war over my neighbor's lap. "Let her have the bag. Just doing her job," says my nonchalant neighbor. I let go and she opened the compartment over my seat. "Oh, we're all full here. Let's see." She's opening compartments down the line, away from me. "Here we are. Sir, I'm placing your bag right here. Right above the bear." How did the bear get on here? How did it fit on the plane? Why does the bear have an aisle seat? Why is there a bear on the plane? Why is no one freaking out? She shuts the compartment and walks towards the front of the plane. "We'll be taking off soon. You look nervous, son." "Is this your first flight?" asked the man next to me. "No, I've flown lots of times. This was supposed to be the last time." The attendants are doing their usual pre-flight routine of instructing people how to put their seatbelts together and how to put on the emergency oxygen masks. I guess the bear doesn't need any help. Its caretaker is sitting right next to it. The seatbelt fits, so I guess they have a special bear mask too. Wouldn't want the wild animal to get hurt, now would we? Focus. It's just an animal after all. It'll be the first thing I shoot. I've got a machine gun, so I'll just spray it with a dozen bullets or so. That should keep the rest of the idiots in their seats. Then I'm back in charge. Bear looks calm anyway. Shouldn't be hard. Today is my day. Nothing is going to change this. The pilot tells us on the overhead that we're ready for a takeoff. The bear made a low growl, and the woman next to it scratched behind his ears, soothing it. The plane starts moving down the runway. Normally, this part of flying doesn't bother me, but today I'm gripping my armrests. The acceleration picks up, and the plane's engines get louder. I'm staring at the back of the bear's head, which is completely still, like some damn taxidermy project that had its own ticket. The wheels of the plane leave the ground, and we are in the air. I'm in a window seat, so I turn my head to look out, hoping it will calm me down, knowing that all is going according to plan, except for the bear. All I have to do is get the bag, kill the bear, shoot that bitch that brought him on here too, maybe a few more people, just for fun, then up to the cockpit with a hostage on the bad end of the barrel to make my way in. I'll tell the captain that we're making an unexpected detour right into the middle of the nearest city. Right before we crash, I'll shoot myself. We have to wait before we reach cruising altitude, then I can move about freely. Then we'll have about 40 minutes before we get close to the nearest big city. Enough time to feel like God before dying. I'm watching through the window, still gripping the armrests. Looks like you need a drink of water, says the man next to me. I realize my forehead is covered with sweat. Yeah, I guess I could, I say, wiping my forehead. I look back and see that the goddamn bear is reclining in its seat. Person behind it doesn't seem to mind. Just then the bear turned around and looked at me. I turned back to the window. Even over the sound of the plane's engines, I can hear the bear smacking its lips, followed by another low rumbling growl. Almost like it's annoyed by me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to fuck up your day. I must have gotten lost in the window as the next time I looked up, the snack cart was being pushed down the aisle by an attendant. What's the bear gonna have? A cookie? Water or Coke? When that cart gets behind me, I'm gonna get up and get over there and grab my bag. I'll take a can of Coke when she gets here. Now she's asking the woman next to the bear if she'll have anything. The woman takes a cookie and a cup of water. The bear got nothing. I guess it's full. Come on, hurry up. She's taking her sweet time pushing that cart down the aisle. My jaw is clenched tight, like a bear trap. All right, here she is, finally. Would you like anything, sir? She asked the man next to me. Yes, a water for myself and for my friend here. No, thank you. I'll have a Coke. Oh, nonsense. You sweating like that? You need a water. 2 waters, please. The woman poured 2 waters, and I gulped mine down in one drink before she even left. Would you like another? She asked. No, I want a Coke. She hands me the red can, and I chug half of it. The sugar and caffeine hit my brain like ice water. I put the can down, and the bear is staring at me again. The attendant pushes the cart down to the row behind us. It's time now. The bear is still looking back at me. I'll give it a minute. Finish my drink. You know, I had a bear like that when I was younger, said the man next to me. What? Oh yeah. His name was Popper. Great bear. You ever had a bear? No, I fucking haven't. I'm gonna kill this son of a bitch too, right after the bear. The bear is still staring at me, and now I'm staring back. I finish my can of Coke and crunch it in my hand. I'm in control here. It's time. Now. Right now. Let's go. I unbuckle my seatbelt and stumble across my neighbor's knees, almost falling into the opposite row. A lot of people notice and are now watching me, but the bear is now looking straight ahead, unaware of me. I think, it's cool. Just a few steps. Open the compartment and start blasting. This is my day, and nothing is going to screw it up. The aisle seems a mile long, and it's taking all my willpower to pick up my feet for every step. I make it to the compartment, the bear sitting right next to me. I reach up to open the hatch and, "Excuse me," says the woman with the bear. Could you hand me my bag? It's in there. I need something from it. Oh, is it for the bear? I ask. I didn't mean to, but it slipped. No, it's just a book for me to read. I can smell the bear. Deep pine woods. Its huge paws brushing against my leg. It's just the fur touching me, but I see the long claws. I open the compartment and there's my bag right in front of hers. One quick draw and I could shoot the bear. Just unload the whole fucking clip into him and forget the rest. Make my way to the cockpit and the bear's huge paw falls from the armrest and the claws scrape my leg. I fall back into someone's lap with my heart in my throat. I look at the bear and it's still in its seat, eyes closed, breathing deep, that low rumble which is louder than the engines. Oh, sorry about that. He's just sleeping. Sir, excuse me, says the flight attendant with the cart. She's finished handing out cookies and cokes and now wants to go back to the front. With the look on her face, I believe she would run me over if she could. She grabbed the lady's bag and handed it to her and closed the compartment. I need something out of there, I say. Yes, sir, I'll... She stops and nearly falls over her cart as the plane has hit sudden turbulence. I bump into the person sitting behind me, opposite the compartment. Sir, get back to your seat. I just need... Sir, you need to get back to your seat. The plane bumps and shakes, and now the bear is awake and growling. The woman hands him some pink bit out of a container which I can now see as fish. Salmon. The bear snacks and smacks, but still makes that growling sound, making an awful mixture of sounds. The attendant has pulled the cart backwards down the aisle, leaving me an open path to my seat. The bear looks at me with salmon hanging from his jaws, so I crawl and stumble back to my seat. Buckle up, it's a bumpy ride, says the idiot sitting next to me. I'm going to kill the bear, then him, then the attendant, then the woman. I buckle my belt and still my head slams into the window. People are screaming. Kids are crying. The plane is bumping and rattling. The captain's voice comes over the speaker saying, Ladies and gentlemen, please remain in your seats. We are experiencing extreme turbulence. The bear is growling and tossing in its seat. The woman tries to feed it more salmon, but the bear isn't having it. He swats away her hand with a huge paw, and the pink salmon goes flying across the plane. The bear tosses and turns and rumbles harder than the plane and breaks free. The goddamn thing has gotten out of its chair. I have to go now. I unbuckle my seatbelt and the moron next to me says, You don't want to do that, son. I punch him in the mouth just so I know I got him one good time before this is over. I'll take this bear down with the rest of them. I brace myself against the seats and I take small steps with firm feet and make my way to the compartment. The bear is squeezed in the aisle on all fours, bouncing off the seats, but mostly steady. Facing away from me, good. Almost there. I grab the seat it used to sit in and I open the compartment. I unzip my bag and I see the machine gun. It's already loaded. All I have to do is grab it and open fire. Never killed an animal before. It's kind of like a bonus. The plane has settled. No more turbulence. Everything is still and smooth and I hear the bear make a noise. I turn to see it facing me. On all fours, it's half as tall as me. Oh my, thank you. Please help him to his seat, says the woman. He just loses his temper when there's turbulence. I look back to the bear who's looking at me with deep brown eyes. Just take his paw and help him to his seat. I'd help you, but I hurt my ankle in all the trouble. Just take his paw. I don't know why, but I stick out my hand. The bear puts its paw out and softly lights on my palm. It makes some kind of noise that I can't figure out if it's aggressive or friendly. I slowly back up, keeping my eyes on the bear as it walks towards its seat. The bear sits down and she buckles him in, and the whole plane starts clapping. They're saying, "Aw," and "How sweet," and whatever else. Are you fucking kidding me? The captain's voice over the speaker says, "Ladies and gentlemen, we seem to be in the clear now, but I am asking that you remain in your seats for the remainder of the flight. Thank you." Sir, that goddamn attendant again. She appeared like a fucking ghost. Please return to your seat. I'm so goddamn flabbergasted I don't know what to do. Just whatever. I shut the compartment. I take my seat. The guy sitting next to me is holding his mouth but pulls his hand down to say, "Good job back there." I forgive you for socking me. We all get a little emotional sometimes under pressure. It takes a brave man to do what you did, risking yourself for that poor animal. I'm sure he appreciates you. I don't know what to say to that. I look out the window and see the big city, so small way down below us. I watch as clouds fill the window and blot out the city with pure white. I look back at the bear, who's looking back at me. I stayed in my seat for the rest of the flight, grabbed my bag and deboarded the plane. Not one bullet fired. So, story 2, The Silent Extraction. Science fiction, suspense, thriller. The shuttle rattled through Ganymede's upper atmosphere, metal hull protesting as superheated oxygen scorched the exterior plating. In the economy cabin, Zeph Garner gripped his armrests, counting seconds until the shaking stopped. Atmospheric entry ranked as his least favorite part of interplanetary travel. Though the statistics assured passengers this constituted the safest era of spaceflight in human history. Statistics provided cold comfort when you felt your atoms might separate at any moment. The turbulence subsided as the craft pushed into stratospheric stability. Zeph loosened his grip, blood returning to whitened knuckles. Another routine descent toward Jupiter's largest moon, where Ganymede colonies sprawled across the icy surface. A frontier metropolis of pressurized domes and underground habitats housing 3 million souls. First time on this route, the woman beside him adjusted her position, reclaiming the shared armrest. Zeph considered ignoring her. His security protocols discouraged unnecessary interactions during transit, but 20 minutes remained until landing. Isolation bred suspicion among observant passengers. Third time this year, he said, manufacturing a tired smile. The corporation rotates security consultants every 4 months. A calculated disclosure, specific enough to sound genuine, vague enough to foreclose further inquiry. His actual occupation remained classified, so security consultant provided convenient cover for corporate extraction specialists. Ah, one of the suits. The woman's mouth twisted into a sardonic smirk. There goes my theory. Theory? That you might be interesting. She extended her hand. Tao Lin, botanist. Zeph accepted the handshake, noting calluses inconsistent with laboratory work. Zeph Garner. Boring suit, apparently. No offense intended. I just spent 3 months at the research outpost surrounded by corporate types. Hope to converse with someone whose mouth forms words besides profit margins and quarterly projections. The shuttle entered a gentle righted turn, adjusting course. Through the viewport, Jupiter's massive presence dominated the horizon, bands of storm systems swirling across its surface. Ganymede remained invisible from this angle, though the navigation display showed their approach vector. Research outpost? Zeph asked, maintaining the conversation while scanning the cabin. 16 passengers, most appearing to sleep or absorbed in personal entertainment. His standard security procedures dictated awareness of all potential variables. Agricultural sustainability trials. Tao pulled a water bottle from her bag. Testing plant adaptations to low-gravity environments for Mars expansion. Sounds more interesting than security protocols. Depends how much you enjoy watching soybean roots for growth variations. She took a sip of water. 3 months of my life spent monitoring photosynthesis rates in simulated Martian light conditions. Zeph observed subtle details while she spoke. Tao Lin appeared mid-30s, athletic build beneath civilian attire, eyes constantly moving, scanning exits, gauging distances, situational awareness beyond typical botanist patterns. Worth the effort? He asked. If you enjoy breathing oxygen and eating food. Her smile revealed a genuine warmth that contradicted his initial assessment. Plants remain our best technology for sustainable colonization. Machines break. Plants reproduce. For 10 minutes, she spoke about resilient crop strains and modified root systems. Zeph maintained the conversation, asking appropriate questions while completing his cabin assessment. The transport appeared routine. No suspicious passengers. No unusual crew behavior. You don't care about agricultural science, Tao said. Zeph shifted his attention back. What? You're nodding and asking questions, but your eyes keep tracking the cabin. Military background? The observation triggered internal alarms. Civilian passengers rarely notice such behavior. Corporate security requires situational awareness, he said, his voice smooth. Force of habit. Her eyes narrowed, pupils fixed on his face, tracking every microscopic reaction. The casual demeanor vanished, replaced by the focused precision of a targeting system. Which corporation? Ganymede Mining Collective. Interesting, since GMC dissolved their security division last quarter and contracted through Artemis Protection Services. She leaned closer. Want to try again? Zeph maintained an unreadable expression despite escalating concern. This conversation had veered beyond casual transit interaction into dangerous territory. You seem remarkably informed about corporate security structures, he said. Information keeps people alive on the frontier. Tao returned her water bottle to her bag, just like recognizing when someone's carrying a military-grade pulse pistol beneath a civilian jacket. Zeph tensed. The weapon remained invisible under his tailored coat, its profile eliminated through specialized holstering. No civilian should have detected it. I think you're mistaken, he said, voice lowered. Your right side hangs heavier. You've adjusted your position 6 times to accommodate the weight, and you maintain a 3-inch gap between your arm and torso for draw clearance. She kept her voice conversational, as though discussing botanical research. Unless you're carrying an antique metal sidearm, it's a TX-7 compact, preferred by extraction teams for its custom targeting system. The cabin grew much smaller. Zeph reassessed the woman beside him, not a botanist, intelligence operative or corporate security, possibly private contractor. Either possibility presented significant complications. Who are you? He asked. Tao Lin's expression remained pleasant, but something shifted in her eyes. Someone who knows Palo Santiago hired you to extract valuable research data from the Ganymede Colonial Repository. She lowered her voice further. Data my employer would prefer remains secure. Zeph maintained outward calm while processing this exposure. Santiago and the extraction team should have been the only ones to know the mission parameters. This level of intelligence penetration suggested high-level access or an internal leak. I don't know who. Skip the denials, she interrupted. Limited oxygen in this cabin. Let's not waste it. The shuttle communications system chimed, the pilot's voice filling the cabin. Passengers, we're beginning final approach to Ganymede Colony. Please secure all personal items and prepare for docking procedures. Local time is 0730 hours. Current exterior temperature minus 180 Celsius. Temperature inside the habitation is a comfortable 22 Celsius. Tao Lin leaned closer as other passengers stirred, preparing for arrival. You have 2 options, Garner. Abort your mission now, return Santiago's advance payment, and find alternate employment, or proceed and encounter obstacles you're not prepared to overcome. Threats rarely persuade me, Zeph said, maintaining eye contact, especially from someone who won't identify their employer. Not a threat, professional courtesy. She handed him a data chip. This contains evidence that Santiago is setting you up. The data you're contracted to extract has already been compromised. Colonial Security received an anonymous tip about an extraction attempt. They prepared accordingly. Zeph didn't take the chip. Why warn me? Santiago burned 3 of my colleagues last year on Titan, left them for Colonial Security when an operation went sideways. Something genuine flickered across her face. Anger, perhaps grief. Professional courtesy doesn't extend to him. The docking sequence started, metal clamps securing the shuttle to Ganymede's arrival terminal. Passengers gathered belongings, preparing to disembark. Zeph weighed options. If Tao told the truth, proceeding meant walking into a trap. If Tao was lying, her unclear motivation still suggested a compromised operation. The data relates to botanical research, Tao said, her voice just above a whisper. Modified crop strains designed for radiation resistance. Santiago plans to sell to Mars Agricultural Consortium, who will patent the research and charge struggling colonies premium prices for seeds that prevent starvation. This detail aligned with Zeph's limited mission briefing, extracting agricultural research data. Santiago had portrayed it as recovering stolen corporate intellectual property. That research came from public funding, Tao said, continuing. It belongs in the public domain, not restricted by corporate patents. Zeph offered no response as passengers shuffled toward the exit. Extraction specialists learned early to question motives, not morality. The mission parameters remained clear despite this unexpected complication. Weigh your options with care, Tao said, standing as their row received clearance to exit. Colonial security doesn't take prisoners during security breaches. They shoot first, document later. She moved toward the exit without looking back. Just another passenger, merging into the arrival flow. Zeph remained seated, watching her disappear through the airlock connecting the shuttle to the terminal. The data chip remained on his armrest. Security protocols dictated treating unverified data sources as potential system threats. His training demanded he leave it behind. Fingers closing around the chip, he slipped it into his pocket. The shuttle emptied at a slow pace. Zeph joined the last group of passengers entering the terminal, mind racing through contingency plans. Colonial Repository security included automated defense systems and armed response teams. If they expected an extraction attempt, the mission's success probability dropped below acceptable parameters. He passed through the identity verification checkpoint, fabricated credentials, passing the automated scan. Beyond the security barrier, Ganymede Colony's central transit hub sprawled across 3 levels, with thousands of people moving between interplanetary departures and local transportation. His gaze located Tao Lin near a public data terminal, her attention focused on the schedule display. As he watched, 3 colonial security officers approached her position from different directions, a standard interdiction pattern. She noticed right away, abandoning her position and moving toward the commercial sector at a casual pace. Zeph altered his route, maintaining distance while tracking the developing situation. The security officers followed Tao, maintaining separation but clearly coordinating her interception. Their hands rested on holstered weapons. Zeph reminded himself the mission hadn't technically begun. Extraction protocols permitted abort without penalty if approach conditions revealed compromised security. Santiago's contract included standard clauses covering operational discretion. Zeph moved toward the nearest exit, activating his risk communicator to arrange alternative transport off-station. A corporate shuttle would depart for Callisto in 2 hours, sufficient time to clear security and distance himself from whatever trap awaited. His communicator chimed with an incoming message. Anonymous sender botanist arrested, security sweeping for accomplices. Your description circulating. Repository security quadrupled. Zeph surveyed the terminal with renewed attention. Security personnel had indeed increased their presence, moving through crowded areas with apparent purpose. Near the main concourse, officers detained a woman matching Tao Lin's general description. Except she had been heading toward the commercial sector. This represented misdirection, security looking for multiple suspects. His risk communicator chimed again. Kill switch activated, evidence links directly to you. Abort impossible now. The implication registered immediately. Santiago had engineered a contingency ensuring mission completion regardless of circumstances. Standard contractor insurance. Manufactured evidence linking Zeph to criminal activity. Releasable if he failed to complete the extraction. The terminal exit suddenly represented a dead end rather than escape. Zeph altered course again, moving deeper into the station's public areas. His mind raced through options, each more limited than the last. The mission had transformed from calculated risk to survival scenario. A third message arrived. Maintenance shaft 7B. Service access panel requires facilities override. 3927A. Route to repository security blind spot uploaded to your comm. Professional courtesy extended further than expected. Zeph accessed the data chip Tao had provided using a public terminal with anonymized access. The contents confirmed her warning. Colonial security had received detailed information about an extraction operation targeting the repository. Source documentation traced back to Santiago himself, setting up a disposable asset for colonial capture while still acquiring the data through other means. The data also revealed something unexpected. Santiago's employer, Mars Agricultural Consortium's chairman, appeared in sealed financial records, transferring funds through multiple shells to Santiago's operation accounts. Zeph downloaded the evidence, cleared the terminal history, and proceeded toward Maintenance Shaft 7B. The choice had simplified: complete the mission on altered terms or face colonial security with manufactured evidence of espionage. The maintenance access panel accepted the override code, sliding open to reveal a utility corridor used by service droids and emergency personnel. Zeph entered, following the uploaded route through Ganymede's infrastructure skeleton, a parallel transit system invisible to regular colonists. His extraction training included infrastructure penetration, but the uploaded route provided shortcuts and security blind spots no external contractors should know. Towlin's employer had exceptional access to colonial systems. The maintenance shaft ended at a service junction near the Colonial Repository's environmental control section. According to the uploaded schematics, a security blind spot existed between camera coverage zones, a 3-meter gap allowing an approach to the secure server housing without surveillance detection. Zeph accessed the environmental control panel and used the provided override codes to adjust ventilation cycles. The security system would register the change as scheduled maintenance, creating a 4-minute window to access the adjacent server room through the maintenance conduit. Inside the server housing, he located the agricultural research database. The extraction tool copied the data within 60 seconds, exactly as planned in Santiago's original mission brief. The divergence came when Zeph added Tao's evidence files to the data package, uploading everything to 3 separate destinations: Santiago's secure server, an anonymous public data hub, and the Mars Colonial Authority Investigations Division. 3 minutes later, Zeph exited through the maintenance system, leaving no trace of the extraction. The valuable research data now existed in both Santiago's possession and the public domain, while evidence of the corporate conspiracy traveled directly to regulatory authorities. Professional courtesy extended in multiple directions. As Zeph navigated toward the cargo district, where independent shuttles operated with minimal documentation requirements, his communicator received a final message. Debt acknowledged. Necessary exit coordinates transmitted. We'll contact you. Attached coordinates led to a maintenance airlock where a small personnel transport awaited, unlocked and pre-programmed for departure to Callisto Station. No questions, no records. Zeph boarded the transport, readying himself for departure. The mission had transformed from simple extraction to something more complex, a realignment of loyalties based on unexpected information. Santiago would receive his data, but lose his corporate patron when the investigation concluded. The colonies would keep access to life-saving agricultural research without patent restrictions. Ahead, uncertainty waited, a fitting state for those who traveled the spaces between worlds, between loyalties, between versions of truth. Zeph tightened the flight harness as the transport entered automated navigation. In the space between planets, the most dangerous weapons remained invisible: information, timing, and the well-placed word from a stranger on a routine shuttle flights. Story 3. Trapped in Conspiracy. Sad science fiction thriller. The Shrikemans were hurrying. They had about 3 hours to get to an evacuation train and get off the planet. The planet, St. Alprecius, was set to be absolutely decimated by the intergalactic Shrook Syndicate. They were a semi-autonomous criminal syndicate that ran a small empire in this sector of space, and they kicked up dues to the larger Scree Empire. The Scree were a ruthless insectoid species who devoured entire star systems in large waves. Unless those systems were clients of one of their clients, the Shrook Syndicate, while a loyal client to the Scree, was hoping to put black hole in this border system to provide a buffer between them and their patrons. They were putting black holes in all border systems for this purpose, and rumor had it they were even dragging more stars to form more black holes in between the systems to build a full wall of black holes to keep the Scree away. The people of St. Alprecius were not just be kicked off the planet. Great arc trains that could carry 90% of the population, no matter what economic class, to a new planet on the other side of Shrook space, far from the Scree. This planet had been slowly terraformed, and much of the Alprecius culture and native life transplanted, with millions of workers building almost exact replicas of the cities. So all people being transplanted would feel at home upon arrival. The Shrook had spared no expense and had prepared one of these planets for every displaced people from the border region. They had spent years developing the trains and other technology to make this a reality, When they pulled the pin and made the black holes, they would be completely cut off and the Scree would not be able to touch them. The Scree had recently told the Shrook that their systems were on the menu for the Hordes. The Shrook had watched as the last of the other clients of the Scree had been wiped off the galactic map. Luckily for the Shrook, the last species they had devoured was on the other side of the galaxy, and the Scree only moved at sublight speeds, as going faster would mess with their delicate stomachs. Thus, the Shrook had started this project of transferring populations 60 years ago. St. Alprecius was the last planet to be evacuated before they started the black hole process. They had been developing the tech to create the wall for much longer, since the first client fell. The Scree had started turning on their clients when they defeated the last of their ancient enemies, the Screw. That had been 3 millennia ago. Now the day was drawing near when the Scree would be outside the Shrook borders. The Shrikemans were a family of 5. There were Breek and Bernita, the planet administrators, and adults of the family. Breedis, their young adult son, who helped the parents take care of the 2 younglings, Frida and Froop. The family was on the last transport out, since they had to make sure that they got as many people as they could off the surface. They had been packing for several months, with Breedis doing the actual packing for the family, while Breek and Bernita oversaw the packing up of any and all cultural and living specimens that were being evacuated. There had been a lot of unpacking and repacking. Breedis was certain they had everything they would need, and thus had told the family to go to the train station and begin loading stuff to their cabin. Breek and Bernita took the twins and the first of several cargo pallets to be taken to the train. The only things that had not been moved to the New World yet were the interiors of people's houses. The Shrook Syndicate was very benevolent and was doing everything to ensure its population would be taken care of. So the trains were massive beasts meant to haul the entire population. But there had been a last-minute foul-up, and one of the trains had not arrived in time. The Shrooks were doing everything they could to get a train there in time to get the last 10%, but it was not looking good. Breedis had stayed behind to see that the rest of the pallets for their home, and in fact entire block, were loaded properly onto the moving vehicles, to be driven into the cargo area of the train. He was also looking for a stuffed animal for his little sister Frida. It had been packed up, but she had gone digging and taken it out. Frida was very young, so she did not understand what was going on. She had done this thinking it would be a fun game to play with her loving older brother. She no way to know the consequences of her fun. As the last trucks full of stuff and people pulled away from the building, Breedis checked his watch. It was almost time for the train to leave with whatever was on board. He pulled out his walkie and asked for a status update. The last trucks they were waiting for were the ones he had just seen off. As Her returned his walkie to his belt, an alarm went off throughout the abandoned city. There was one more train from the surface, and all people needed to get there with in the next 2 hours if they did not want to be left behind. Breedis took one last sweep of his building, checking to make sure everyone and everything was out. As he was leaving the apartment he had grown up in, he suddenly recalled Frida's stuffed animal. He ran to her room and looked all over, finding nothing. As he went to leave, he recalled that there was a loose vent cover in the corner. He walked over, opened the cover, and found the stuffed animal. He grabbed it and stuffed it in his belt, then checked his watch. Holy smokes, he thought, as he realized he only had an hour and a half to get to the train station. He ran down the stairs as fast as he could, since all power on the planet was being routed to the black hole machine. He made it to the bottom of the building, just as the train's engines started powering up. He could hear them from across the city and knew he was running out of time. He got in his vehicle and did 10,000 gloops a second to make it to the other side of the city in time. He made it with 15 minutes to launch, when another alarm started going off. Everyone froze, and Breedis, who was climbing out of his vehicle, well, his blood had run cold. That was an alarm they should never have heard. It was the Scree. They had beaten all expectations, and the front edge of their forces was beginning to trickle into the system. Breedis found a worker about to board the train and gave him the stuffed animal, to ensure it got to his sister. Then he turned and started directing all remaining workers to get all the hatches battened down and ensure any and all cargo were on board and secured. The launch window would be tight. Breedis radioed in to see if the train was ready for launch. He was the last being that would board the train before it hightailed it out of there. That is when a terrible fact became apparent. Someone had forgotten to release the docking clamps that had securely held the train in place for loading. Breedis began bolting for the controls at the other end of the platform. Just as he got there, the first signs of the black hole machine shot up into the sky towards the system's sun. They could also see on the horizon millions upon millions of scree, beginning their descent towards the surface to start consuming what they thought was a vastly populated world. Breedis started flipping every switch and every button, having been trained on this procedure as part of the evacuation staff. The train was revving hard now. Breedis slammed his fist on the final release button and pulled the lever. The 1 Saint 8 the securing rails released, and many explosives attaching the train to the 9th and final rail went off, as well as the ones on the back of the train to give it a boost to get moving. In space, a massive battle raged to give this final train a chance to flee. The Shrook had begun the fast version of their black holing process and were beginning to receive reports from every system that the Scree were there in a force. The defense fleet was running a fighting retreat, ensuring the train was behind them before the system was given to the black hole. Breedis had begun running for the final car as soon as he had hit the last releases, but it was not looking good. The train was going very fast, and the beings on the back of the train could see he was not going to make it. Someone had loaded his car into the train before it was sealed, except for the hatch at the back they now stood at. Breek and Brunita were on the bridge, monitoring the launch, unaware of Breedis' conundrum. They were aware of the attempt to try and rescue one last Saint in oppression, but they were busy making sure the train had enough speed to make their exit vector and reach orbit. They were cutting it close and were about to reach the point where they needed to speed up to reach their target orbit. Breedis watched as the train picked up more speed and pulled away too fast for him to catch up. He took solace in the fact his family was safely and securely aboard. As the train began its pull for orbit, and then hopefully the space lanes, he took out his radio and said goodbye and good luck. He then dropped his radio before anyone could respond, turned around and spread his arms, throwing his head back and his eyes closed. The black hole beam for his city should be up to power now. It was in fact, and it launched for the sun, the last of 42 such beams launched from around the system to set off the reaction for a black hole. Breedis was instantly vaporized since the machine for this beam was directly below the train station. As the train reached the outer system, Breek and Brunita could relax a little to check on that soul that had gone back to release the train. They found out something very disturbing. They found out the poor soul who had saved everyone on the train was their son Breedis. They found out that their pushing the train speed had caused him not to be able to catch up. And lastly, they found out that his final message to them was one of love and hope, encouraging them to make something of the future he had bought them. The worker who delivered this news was the one Breedis had given the stuffed animal to. The worker handed the stuffed animal to them after delivering the news. Breek and Brunita cried out in agony, collapsed in a heap on the floor of the bridge, grasping tightly to the stuffed animal and each other as they wept. They had forgotten their son. Story 4. Whispers on the Tracks. California, 1868. Clara Emerson pressed herself against the train window, her eyes glazed and alert from exhaustion. She stretched out her aching legs, revealing her muddy shoes that poked out from underneath the hem of her dress. She retracted her feet back from visibility, gathering and stroking her straw-like graying hair as she peered out the window. Clara glanced to see if anyone was watching her. Only a handful of people sat behind her, none of which were looking in her direction. "No, I'm safe." She drew in a deep breath, steadying herself, but unease coiled in her chest and churned in her belly. Turning in her seat, she lowered her gaze to the small diamond band on her finger. Sunlight caught in its facets, scattering tiny prisms across her skin. For just a moment, she marveled at its beauty. Clara looked up and locked eyes with a man several seats ahead. Clean-shaven, with thin-framed spectacles perched on his nose, the man stared at her with a hollow, unreadable expression. Her pulse kicked. How long had he been watching her without her noticing? Her skin went cold and clammy. Like a predator spotting easy prey, the man rose from his seat and approached her, not breaking eye contact once. Clara stiffened in her seat as the man approached. "Go away. May I sit? I have a long journey ahead of me, and I could sure use the company, he said to her. No, of course. The man sat down across from her. His eyes remained on her, almost as if they were boring into her very soul. Didn't anyone tell you it's rude to stare? She asked him, hoping that illuminating his behavior would cause him to cease. But it did not. Forgive me, ma'am. It's just, you look so familiar. Do we know each other, perhaps? No, I don't recall your face. You must be mistaken. No, I think we do know each other. Why won't he quit? Where are you from? I'm not going to tell you that. You haven't even told me who you are. Ah, how foolish of me. My name is Simon Klein. He leaned forward, extending his hand to her. He sat back down and continued to stare at her, expectantly this time. Clara sighed, brushing a strand of hair out of her face. I'm Elaine Whitmore. Elaine? I would have taken you for an Alice or Charlotte or Clara. Clara froze in her seat, her eyes wide and her palms sweaty. Who is this man? No, I'm just Elaine. Mr. Klein gave her a wry smile, shaking his head. So where are you headed to? Clara shrugged. Anywhere that's far away from here. Ah, come on. California's the place to be. There's opportunity here. Not for me. Not anymore. Shame, he said. What is? Mr. Klein chuckled. Surely you have friends or family that will miss you. It almost sounds like you're running away. Now he was just getting on her nerves. You're quite brazen, Mr. Klein. My business is none of your concern. Mr. Klein pressed his lips tightly together, as if he were in pain, and forced out a smile. My apologies, Mrs. Whitmore. I never quite learned how to keep my nose out of others' affairs. I am a curious fellow. Curious indeed. Hoping to break the tension, she pulled out a flask from underneath her shawl. Care for a drink? A wild glimmer in his eyes appeared. It was as if he wanted to reach out and strangle her. No, thank you, he said, his demeanor shifting. There was something dangerous underneath this man's calm exterior. Somehow that made him more terrifying. If he were angry and violent from the start of their encounter, she could predict his next move and accept that she was under attack. But this man unnerved her to her core. There was something almost familiar about him. Gathering her shawl, she stood from her seat, and as steady as she could present herself to be, she faced him. I think I would prefer to be in my own company for the rest of the journey. Good day to you. Please, there's no need to leave. If you wish to be alone, I can accommodate. Mr. Klein stood, moving back to his original seat. Clara returned to hers, facing away from Mr. Klein this time, but she could still feel his eyes on her. She waited until the train had passed a dilapidated old shack, close to the tracks before rising from her seat and creeping her way down toward the caboose. Her heart quickened, as did her pace. Excuse me, sir, she heard behind her. Sucking in a breath, she chanced a glance behind her, locking eyes with Mr. Klein, who was trailing close behind her. He did not smile this time at her. His eyes were cold and focused on her intently like before. But there was a rage in those eyes, a bloodlust, in fact. She didn't think twice this time, turning and running down the aisle like a madwoman. She stumbled through the empty train carts, praying an escape plan would present itself to her before he reached her. But there wasn't enough time and there was nowhere left to run. I'm trapped. She looked out the back window and considered the tracks. Maybe she could jump. Maybe. She might still have a chance. The door behind Clara creaked open. She spun around to see Mr. Klein reaching into his coat pocket, revealing a silver pistol. She backed away slowly, keeping her eyes trained on Mr. Klein, if that even was his name, and she pressed herself against the back door of the caboose. He pointed the barrel at her. Rage oozed out from beneath the calm, collected persona he performed earlier. His hand trembled, but he remained in control of himself for the moment. Clara trembled, terrified of what he would do to her. What do you want from me? Why are you following me? I saw you, Mr. Klein said. I saw what you did to my sister that night. Whatever she planned on saying to him, the words fell empty in her mouth. This is it. It's over. What? You thought no one saw you sneak out of her house in the dead of night? And I find my sister dead in her home? No, that's a lie. I would never harm anyone. I'm a good woman. How do you sleep at night? He said, his finger twitchy on the trigger. I know it was you who did it. No sooner had I returned from my hunting trip, I see you sneaking out of her house like some rat. She was dead when I found her. Please, have mercy on me. I would never do such a thing. Liar. Mr. Klein drew closer. She fumbled for the handle behind her, desperate for escape. Her weight against the door caused it to swing open, landing her on her back. She held her hands over her head to shield herself. Why? He cried. Why did you do it? Tell me. A shrill, raspy whistle emanated from the front of the train, distracting Mr. Klein for the briefest moment. Clara seized the opportunity and kicked Mr. Klein in the shin, dropping him to his knees. He screamed, clutching his leg as the gun clattered next to him. Without a second thought, she scrambled for the pistol and swiped it, aiming the barrel at him. Get up, she said. Mr. Klein held his hands up, pushing himself up off the floor. I'm not the one that deserves this. I'm not going to die today. She pressed her finger to the trigger, but it wouldn't budge. The hammer. Mr. Klein grabbed hold of the barrel and yanked it back hard, too hard. Clara released the pistol, and with it, Mr. Klein, screaming as he staggered backward, tumbling off the train. He hit the tracks hard, rolling like a rag doll before coming to rest, bloodied and limp, his lifeless eyes fixed toward the sky. The wind violently whipped Clara's hair as Mr. Klein's body disappeared beyond view. She steadied herself against the railing, her thumb absent-mindedly tracing the curve of the diamond, lost in a thought she refused to finish. Story 5. The Flight from Hell. Sophie adjusted her uniform and took a deep breath. Flight 827 from New York to London was fully boarded, passengers settled in, and the cabin crew prepared for takeoff. She had been working as a flight attendant for 5 years, but tonight an unsettling feeling gnawed at her. As the plane ascended, she moved down the aisle, smiling at passengers and ensuring everything was in order. Then she saw him, a face from her past. Her heart pounded. It was Daniel Grayson, a man she hoped never to see again. 5 years ago, he had been arrested for a violent crime. She had testified against him in court, and now he was seated in business class, staring straight at her. Panic surged through her, but she forced a professional smile and kept walking. Was he here by coincidence, or was this planned? Nowhere to run. Hours passed. The plane cruised over the Atlantic, passengers dozing off, unaware of the silent battle raging in Sophie's mind. Then, turbulence. The seatbelt sign flickered on, and the plane shook. As she secured the cabin, a deep voice behind her sent chills down her spine. Miss, could I get a drink? She turned. Daniel, smirking. Sophie's hands trembled as she poured the drink. He knows who I am. He remembers. Still making people's lives difficult, Sophie? He murmured, his eyes gleaming with something sinister. Her breath hitched. Excuse me? He chuckled, taking the drink. You ruined mine. Her pulse raced. Did he have a plan? Was he going to hurt her? The storm inside and out. The turbulence worsened. The pilot's voice crackled over the intercom, announcing a severe storm ahead. Passengers gripped their armrests, tension thick in the air. In the dimly lit galley, Sophie felt trapped. Daniel was watching her, enjoying her fear. Then a sudden realization. He wasn't alone. A second man, seated behind him, exchanged a knowing glance with Daniel. This was planned. Sweat beaded on Sophie's forehead. She had to act fast, but how? Fight for survival. As the storm raged, Sophie reached for the intercom and discreetly alerted the captain. Suspicious passengers in business class, possible threat. Suddenly, Daniel stood up. Too soon. He wasn't supposed to move yet. Passengers gasped as he lunged toward the cockpit, but Sophie, driven by adrenaline, blocked his path. A struggle ensued. The second man grabbed at her, but she fought back, knocking over a food cart. Chaos erupted. The captain, alerted by her message, locked the cockpit door and radioed for emergency landing. Passengers screamed. Sophie wrestled against Daniel, using every ounce of strength to subdue him. Then, a sudden jolt, the plane dropped. The last thing Sophie saw before everything went black was Daniel's panicked face, as gravity threw them apart. Aftermath. The emergency landing in Ireland was rough, but successful. Authorities swarmed the plane. Daniel and his accomplice were arrested. Their plan? Hijacking. Sophie, bruised but alive, was hailed a hero. She had saved everyone. As she stood outside the plane, breathing in the cold night air, she realized something. No, kiddos, she wasn't just a flight attendant. She was a survivor. Outro, like, subscribe, comment. If you enjoyed these stories, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon for more thrilling content. Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments so we can thank you personally. We will be back soon with more spine-chilling, suspenseful, and unbelievable stories. Until then, stay safe and stay connected with true stories.